Since you bring up the Olympics and they were quite recent, they're topical, many of my friends have mentioned to me that their parents bring this up to them, which I find interesting. And their parents often end up saying something like, why can't trans people just have their own leagues, their sports leagues? So you have men, women, and trans people. And my question for you is, obviously this is a big public issue. And how do you believe that it should be solved,
Oh,
these issues with
goodness.
the Olympics?
Yeah,
I mean, there's a pragmatic question and then an ideal question.
yeah. Um, well, the truth is, I think they probably have to be solved on a case by case basis because there's a difference between being intersex and being trans. If you're intersex, you're actually born with a combination, or you might have an extra chromosome or high or low testosterone. And then if you're trans, well, you might be taking uh, gender confirming medication, and then that has to be taken into account. But uh, I mean, I think first of all, it's important to note that less than 2% uh, uh, of athletes are trans, so they can't have their own league. I mean, it would be like a very funny league, and they're not all in the same sport, right? So you might find somebody over in boxing and somebody else in running, but they can't be in the same competition because they're not competing for the same thing. It's very rare to find more than one person who's trans or intersex um, in in any given sport. So a solution like that wouldn't really work. I think that the ideals have to be equality and inclusion. And some people say, well, it's not fair to women who are uh, assigned female at birth to compete against trans women who were assigned male at birth uh, and very possibly have had a different kind of training or a different level of testosterone. At the same time, we don't want to say trans people can't compete or there's no place for you in the Olympics, right? So we have a question of equality and a question of inclusion. And I would like to see international Olympic boards um, proclaim their commitment to both and find solutions, then look at solutions that would fulfill both ideals. I can't tell you exactly what those should be, but I think looking at each individual sport and then looking at each person who uh, poses a challenge for them um, would be wise, and to bring those kinds of principles to bear without compromise, quite frankly.